Welcome back to another week of SoCal Business and Basketball Report. This week we're at Mater Dei High School in Santa Ana, California, in the heart of Orange County. It's about 30 miles south of Los Angeles and about 90 miles north of San Diego. So a little south of here in Irvine, Newport Beach would be more or less equidistant in between San Diego and LA. Mater Dei is lost a little bit this year. They're in a little bit of a rebuilding mode as Spencer Friedman graduated. He moved on to Harvard. He's actually started a few games at Harvard this year. And Michael Wong was a 6'10" player last year on the Southern Section champion Mater Dei team. He's at the University of Pennsylvania this year, and he's done well. He's contributing to a team that beat Temple, that beat Villanova, and also he had in wins against Miami, he had 23 points. In a win against New Mexico, he had 19 points. So he's contributing quite a bit. On the way down, I stopped at Phil's Coffee, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen the logo here with Phil's with a Z. Stopped at the Rosecrans location, and they brew individual cups of coffee. For years I've gone through and explained to people how if you take coffee instead of a latte and add up what that means, and if you invest it, and shown the results through the years. But Friday here and there, you want to get a good cup of coffee. They have the mint mojito, and kind of piggybacking off of last week and our talk about Silicon Beach. Well, Phil's Coffee, they started in the Mission neighborhood in San Francisco, where a lot of the tech people have money to burn, and so it's very high quality coffee. They have 3 locations in Orange County, and right now it's just California and Washington DC. But with all those tech employees, they have money to burn. Like I said, I was talking to someone last week who a friend of mine who works in the tech sector, and was telling me how up in the Bay Area, they just closed their Bay office in the San Francisco area. They were paying $14,000 a month for a 700 square foot office. So it's getting a little frothy again in the tech sector. But back on Phil's, the guy Phil Jobber wanted to create a great cup of coffee, and his core values, he put, it's almost like treating coffee like a fiduciary responsibility. Put the customer first as their first core value. Be quality and progress driven second. And then third, be kind and keep it real. So, I'm on board with that. They have a tremendous product. As it's gotten a little frothy in that tech sector, I noticed, stopped in the Erewhon market a little while ago, and they've got some pretty fancy ice cream. They have a market right across the street from Snap, so they're kind of living off of that whole wave in the tech sector. The pint of ice cream was $17 at Erewhon market, so that's gonna change at some point. And in terms of food, and the reason I'm hitting on some of these things, in Orange County, there's a number of corporate offices dealing with the food industry, and we'll hit on that in a second. But on a trip to Fresno earlier this year, I stopped in Bakersfield. I got just a Subway sandwich, 6-inch Subway, and it was a little over $5. Well, a few years ago, it was $5 for a footlong. Up in Fresno, I stopped at a Carl's Jr., got a couple of sandwiches, and it was about $10. So you're feeling the inflation, and part of that is the minimum wage. People certainly need to they need to live, but as the wages go up, it's really going to impact the food industry and a lot of industries. Right now, it's over 26 employees in California. Minimum wage is $12 an hour. If you're under that, under 25 employees, $11 an hour. But there is a rule by 2023, all of California has to be $15 an hour. Some cities have moved that ahead. So you have, if we break this down a little bit, LA right now is $13.25 an hour. San Jose is $15 an hour. Sunnyvale, $15.65 an hour. So you heard it here first. There's gonna be a fast food restaurant that goes BK or just moves out of California in the next 3 years. And we're already seeing in a lot of the prime turf areas, places like Norm's Diner, they're just moving out because it's more profitable for the landowner to put housing there. KFC is moving out. So sometimes it's a preference of food, but KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, we're seeing them move out. I was sitting there at a Tender Greens restaurant, actually in Culver City. It was just a couple of years ago, and I noticed a big line out the door. And at Ford's filling station next door, it was vacant. It was almost empty. There was no one there. Well, short time later, Ford's filling station closed down that location, as people are gravitating towards the vegetable diet type of thing. And so Ford's filling station, who started the whole foodie movement in Culver City, they focused on their LAX location. So we're seeing some changes there. And really in the restaurant business, it's just a big math formula. Your food costs need to be about 25 to 30%. And you're gonna, with seafood, with steak, you're going to see that go up a little bit. If it's pasta, it's going to be down below that. Your labor costs around 30%. Your overhead, your space, 20%. Then it leaves your profit around 20%. So now, obviously, there's going to be a problem when you have $14,000 a month for a 700 square foot space. Something's got to give. And then when the labor costs start going up, so we're going to see some changes in the food industry, certainly the next few years. And we've through the last 10 years, as the fast casual style of eating has picked up. That's an idea to cut down on the labor costs there. But companies that don't automate and use the robots for the cooking purposes are going to have some problems. And so in a short story, I would say, hey, don't send your kids to culinary school, because there's going to be a lot of robots and a push to cut down on those labor costs. So here in Orange County, so what's here? And we've got El Pollo Loco's corporate headquarters are right here in Costa Mesa. There are actually two companies. There's a Mexican company that is El Pollo Loco in Mexico, and then there's the company here. It's about 500 locations that are franchise and company owned here in the U.S. El Pollo Loco stands for Crazy Chicken in Spanish, and they have very good chicken. It's grilled right there. Taco Bell is based in Irvine, which is also Orange County here. It's a subsidiary of Yum Brands. Started with a hot dog stand in San Bernardino, and the guy Glenn Bell, he saw someone across the street who had a taco stand. He just had a line that never ended, and he wasn't selling a lot of hot dogs, so he figured out how to do tacos. And his first place was called El Taco that they opened, and he eventually sold that to the partner, and it was 1962 in Downey is where he opened up Taco Bell. And then in 1978 is when they sold the business to Pepsi. So that is a Southern California story there. And then eventually, Pepsi spun the thing off, and they created the Tricon company, and that eventually became what is Yum Brands. And by the way, San Bernardino has been instrumental in the food industry, as that was the first McDonald's there. And Not far from there in Baldwin Park, that's where the In-N-Out company started their hamburger business, and which is not far from San Bernardino as well. And today that's the DC, as In-N-Out has their headquarters in Orange County here as well. Next I want to hit on Del Taco. Their headquarters are also here in Lake Forest, and that's Orange County. They're currently in 15 states, 551 locations, 60% are corporate stores right now. The NASDAQ symbol is Taco, and they started the bean and cheese burrito. That was about 1967, and today if you go and just get a bean and cheese burrito and a jacked up BRC as well, it's about $2. So you see a lot of construction workers there keeping their meal costs down. I've mentioned a number of the Mexican restaurants, the tacos, the burritos. BJ's restaurant is also here headquartered in Orange County. But there are some advantages. A lot of people like the Mexican restaurants here in California. Del Taco, their #1 state is here in California, and part of the advantage here is the food production, and cheese is very instrumental in Mexican food. California is the #1 state in terms of cheese production in the country, and it passed Wisconsin a number of years ago. So if you can keep those cheese costs down, it allows you to keep your food costs down. Another ingredient, cilantro in the Mexican food. I've seen in the agriculture areas where a lot of times there's a farmer that does really well at treating the equipment really well, the soil well, and eventually the other farmers in the area, maybe they go out of business, scale things down a little bit, and then the owner of that land may ask the farmer that's doing well to farm their land because it's going to be good for the soil, and eventually that gives the farmer that's winning economies of scale, and they're able to do things. I've seen that happen in the Lompoc area in the San Joaquin Valley, and so that's been another thing that can keep those food costs down in the Mexican food industry. Lettuce would be another ingredient for this type of food. Another factor that can come into play on this, down in Brawley area, east of San Diego, I saw back 2005, 2006, there was a time frame there where people just left lettuce in the ground. And that's because at that time frame, construction was really thriving, and whether it was documented or undocumented workers, people could make a lot more money in construction as opposed to pulling lettuce out of the ground. So they just didn't have the people actually to pull that lettuce out of the ground back then. And of course that's gonna cause problems in the food chain and food costs. Let's see here, that gives us a feel for some of the headquartered companies here. A lot of times, as I mentioned, a company might have started in San Bernardino, and then eventually maybe the owner wants to live in Orange County, so they move the headquarters here. So you've seen a lot of that, and I've just rattled off a number of those companies. And moving forward, as medicine improves, diseases are cured, it's going to create even more of a problem in terms of food. It's good that people are curing their diseases, but as there's more people to feed, it's very crystal clear that Asia and Africa are going to be the two places where you're going to have the largest cities. So if the food thing can be figured out, those are probably going to be two of the most powerful parts of the world in the future. And we'll see how it plays out, but certainly the populations in the United States are not going to grow as much as in Asia and Africa. So let's just move to basketball here. tonight. We had a nice string of games. Early on, we saw Orange Lutheran beat Dos Pueblos. Thon Maker's cousin plays on Orange Lutheran, and he's about 6'10", McCurr Maker. He's got a nice touch on his shot. He's not totally comfortable on the court yet, but he's certainly a prospect that looks good. Oak Hill was here tonight, and they played Santa Margarita with Max Agbonkpolo and Jake Kyman. Oak Hill did win by quite a bit, and I would definitely say that Cole Anthony, I would pick him as the best player in the country right now in the senior class. And it's hard to say where he'll end up, but I would pick him over James Wiseman. He was on tonight, hitting all of his shots basically, and he's a real leader on the floor. Max Agbonkpolo played well in the second half, but they just didn't have enough in the backcourt to hang with Cole Anthony. And then in our final game, Mater Dei won 57-51 over Rolling Hills Prep. Vaughn Flowers played well. Benny Giller played well for Rolling Hills Prep. And Mater Dei, Devin Askew, who's one of my favorites at the point guard position, only a sophomore. He did well. He hit some key buckets in the second half. And once again, the extravaganza, brings in a major power like Oak Hill. And you always run into some nice conversations with people in the audience. I saw Dana Altman from Oregon. He was here tonight, and on Monday he was over at Orange Lutheran High School recruiting. They're in on Cole Anthony. It's hard to say where Cole will end up. I think Duke has a good chance there as well. But it was a good crowd, and that's going to pretty much complete our night here. Appreciate you joining us, and we'll look forward to bringing you more information from a neighborhood next week.